You're listening to Keek on the Mic.
Keek on the Mic.
A podcast all about the Chicago Bears. This podcast starts right now.
Keek on the Mic.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. And before we get this episode started, make sure you hit the subscribe button below and the bell notification to catch all Bears news, live reactions, everything Chicago Bears. It'll be right here on this podcast. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Keek on the Mic. Make sure you tell all the Bears fans that you know about my podcast. And you'll also be able to listen to this podcast on Apple Podcast. So, this video or this podcast was a request from one of my listeners, and they wanted me to do a mock draft of the Chicago Bears. So I was like, you know what? I'm down for the challenge. You know, I know it's a big circus going on with the Chicago Bears organization, but I love a good challenge. So as I was looking at the big board for the Chicago Bears, I'm like, there's so many things that the Bears actually need. So what I wrote down was obviously quarterback, offensive line, wide receiver if Allen Robinson actually decides to leave. And then obviously I was also thinking maybe inside linebacker. So those are the needs that I think the Bears need to come out of this draft with. So before I do this mock draft, make sure you comment below and let me know what you think the Bears need to do in this upcoming draft. So let's get this show on the road with the first round pick, and that's if we actually keep our first round pick this time. With pick number 20, I would like the Bears to select Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle from Virginia Tech. There's a lot of people that have us taking Christian Darrisaw in the first round, and I absolutely love the pick. Obviously, offensive line is a huge need. He can be our left tackle of the future, so I absolutely love that. And if you look, for example, if you look at the Dallas Cowboys and their blueprint, how they built their offensive line first, and they had a dominant run game for years because they built the offensive line first. That's what the Chicago Bears need to do to hopefully be successful in the long run. So Christian Darrisaw, he's 6'5", 314 pounds, so he's a big dude. He has all the tools to succeed on the blind side in the NFL. So he has good, strong frame, long arms. That's what you look for in a tackle. He's nimble and good with lateral quickness and pass protection. So you also like those big athletic guys. It's also a good characteristic for him. And he's a nasty on the edge, has like a nasty edge to his game. And for the longest time, and this is not just with offensive linemen, I want the Bears to draft a couple of guys that have an edge to them, have that nasty grit that will bring something positive to this football team. Enough drafting these goody two-shoe guys. Sometimes you need these guys that are going to do the dirty work for you, and this is what Christian Darrisaw would do for the Chicago Bears. So that would be my first pick in the first round, 20th overall for the Chicago Bears. So in round 2, and people may think, Bubba, you're crazy, but this is what I just talked about. If the Bears want to succeed, we need to shore up the offensive line. So in round 2, I'm going to take Liam Eckenberg, offensive tackle from Notre Dame. Yes, they are the same position. But last time I checked, there's a left tackle and a right tackle. You can put Darrisaw at left tackle in place of Charles Leno, and you could put Liam at right tackle if need be in place of Bobby Massey. Liam is 6'6", 305 pounds, so this is another big guy. And to me, if he drops to the second round, that would be an absolutely great pick for the Chicago Bears, and this would help shore up our offensive line. The reason why I think Liam may drop to the second round is because the new format of the NFL draft, there's not actually going to be an NFL combine. It's going to be virtual. So that may play in the Bears' favor when it comes to draft time. So obviously, everyone knows that Notre Dame makes great offensive linemen. It's proven. You know, you look at Quentin Nelson, for example. Great offensive linemen. They have good IQ. They're always strong. They're smart football players. He has good size and length. He is not really a freak athlete, but he's still a solid athlete. He'll be good enough. He's quicker than expected. He's an elite run blocker. Like I said, high football IQ. And another good note that I like, he did not allow a sack in 2019. Put it this way. If you shore up your offensive line, it doesn't matter who you put back there. If they're blocking for you, I feel like any quarterback you have back there will probably be most likely successful for the Chicago Bears. So in round 3, and I know people are like, Bubba, where in the hell is the quarterback? Obviously, that's one of the biggest needs, if not the biggest needs for the Chicago Bears in this offseason. So in round 3, people, I'm going to take Ian Book out of Notre Dame. 6 foot, 203 pounds. I have been a big fan of Ian Book for the last couple of years. I absolutely love his game. Yes, he's going to need some polishing up, but I truly feel that if you're going to take a quarterback, no matter if it's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, they need to sit for a year and learn the game. I don't want any rookie starting next year for the Chicago Bears, and that's just my personal opinion. So Ian Book is mobile. He has a nice touch on his pass and has pretty good ball placement. His deep ball can improve. That's one area of his game that can improve, but he can still make those throws. So this is where it comes. He sits for a year. He, works on his game, learns a little bit, and then obviously, like I said, in the first round and the second round, you shore up your offensive line, and there you go. Obviously, we have Cole Kmet, his tight end. Then you bring Liam Eckenberg. You have Bars on the offensive line. So it's almost going to be like a Notre Dame football team for the Chicago Bears, So I like this pick for the Bears in round 3. I think that would be a good place for Ian Book to go. A lot of people would probably say, oh, we can maybe get him in the 5th round, which would even be better. But I would like that pick, round 3, for the Bears, and hopefully that can be your future at the quarterback position. So here we go. Obviously, the Chicago Bears do not have a 4th round pick because we traded for Nick Foles, and that is where our 4th round pick went. So we go to the 5th round now. So in the 5th round, and sorry if I butcher this guy's name, but Khyiris Tonga, defensive line, BYU. Everyone knows that when Eddie Goldman went down, that was an area depth-wise where we kind of struggled. We missed Eddie Goldman, but when Eddie Goldman comes back, this would be a nice pick in the 5th round for the Chicago Bears for depth, rotation piece. He's 6'4", 322. I would really like this pick, like I said, for depth on the defense. I feel like our defense is still good, still has a lot of good pieces on it. So now we just need to figure out how to add good rotational pieces for the Chicago Bears defense. So like I said, in round 6, I believe we will have 3 6th round picks, 2 of those being comp picks for the Bears. So this is going to be great. Everyone knows that Ryan Pace is pretty good when it comes to the later rounds. So in round 6, for the first 6th round pick, I would like the Bears to take Cade Johnson, wide receiver, South Dakota State. This pick will probably change for me as I get more information on the Allen Robinson news. It doesn't seem promising that he wants to stay in Chicago. But if Allen Robinson does leave Chicago, Cade Johnson, I wouldn't call him a replacement, but I think it would be a nice extra piece in the wide receiver room. And even when looking at Anthony Miller, we don't know if he's going to be a Chicago Bear. So I think this would be a nice little piece. So he's 5'9", 180, so he's pretty small. He's a speedster, so very dangerous with the ball in his hands. Solid route runner, quick release off the line of scrimmage. So when you look at him, it's kind of like, oh, it's like another Darnell Mooney, But to me, you could never have enough speedsters. So if you add Cade Johnson, you have Tariq Cohen, Darnell Mooney. So now you're playing with a lot of speed on that Chicago Bears offense. Of course, this pick would even be better if we were able to keep Allen Robinson. So in the 6th round, with our first 6th round pick, I would take Cade Johnson. With our first comp pick that we're going to get in the 6th round, I would like the Bears to take Nick Eubanks, tight end from Michigan. He's 6'5", 256 pounds, and people will probably say, well, Bubba, we already have 2 tight ends. Here's the problem. Yes, Jimmy Graham did have a good season, but after his contract is up, he is going to be 35 years old. So why not bring in another tight end and let Jimmy Graham groom this tight end, so when Jimmy Graham finally decides to hang up the cleats, there you go. Now you have Cole Kmet, you have Nick Eubanks from Michigan, and now you have a pretty solid tight end room. The notes I have on him is he's very athletic. He has good burst off snap, great flexibility, and sharpness in his routes. And that's always good. When you have a good route runner, especially in the tight end room, I think that just adds more dynamic to the offense. So, like I said, bring this young guy in, let Jimmy Graham groom him, just like he's doing with Cole Kmet right now. And now you have 2 solid young tight ends for the future of the Chicago Bears. So with the 3rd and final 6th round pick that the Bears probably will receive, I have the Bears taking Garrett Wallow, inside linebacker from TCU. Obviously, like I said, this would be a depth pick. Obviously, Danny Trevathan's not getting any younger. Obviously, you have Roquan Smith, and I think we're still trying to hopefully find a replacement someday for Danny Trevathan. Maybe this guy will turn into that type of player. He is 6'2", 230 pounds. For me, the inside linebacker backups are questionable. I feel that Garrett will be able to come in and maybe add a spark to the backup role. I still think Danny Trevathan has a good couple of years left in him, but you need to think about the future as well and making sure you're pairing someone with Roquan Smith for the future. What I have on him is that he's able to get outside, sideline to sideline, speed to get to the outside, and he was also a former safety. So that would be good for coverage. So for certain situations, if you want to send Roquan Smith on a blitz, you would be able to drop Garrett back in coverage, and that would benefit the Chicago Bears, because I feel like Roquan Smith is a very good blitzing linebacker in the NFL. So that would be my final 6th round pick for the Chicago Bears. And finally, in round 7, when you're going into these later rounds, I would personally like the Chicago Bears to draft best player available. I feel that Ryan Pace has been really, really good in rounds like 5 through 7, even 4 through 7. He's been very good drafting in these later rounds. So in the 7th round, I would like the Bears to take D'Angelo Malone, edge, Western Kentucky. Obviously, we have Travis Gibson. I think he's a promising young guy, but you can never have enough edge rushers to me. Obviously, Robert Quinn, I don't really want to sit here and call him a bust signing yet. Maybe I'm going to give him another year to prove himself, but if you keep bringing these young edge rushers in, one of them's going to hit. So in 2019, he had 11 sacks, 20.5 tackles for loss. He's an athletic edge rusher with great quickness and plenty of flexibility, able to kick it into another gear when closing in on ball carriers. He's 6'4" and 229 pounds. Right now, this would be a good depth pick. And obviously, Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy have to hit on all these picks. Obviously, these are not probably going to be all the guys they pick. These would be the picks I would like to see the Chicago Bears make. I feel like these guys would be able to contribute in different ways, even if it started off on special teams. But this draft is crucial for the Chicago Bears franchise to hopefully take a huge step in the right direction. So before we end this podcast, let me know in the comment section what you think about my mock draft, and let me know what you want the Chicago Bears to do. Make sure to also hit the subscribe button below and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on Keek on the Mic. Make sure you follow me on my Instagram page at Keek on the Mic. You can also share this podcast with all the Bears fans you know. That would be much appreciated. Make sure you let them know about the podcast. Tell them what's up with Keek on the Mic. You'll also be able to listen to this episode of Keek on the Mic on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you rate and review that podcast. That'll be much appreciated. But other than that, I'll be back right here for all new Bears video next time on Keek on the Mic. Thanks, guys.
Now this is a podcast all about Bears. You either cheering for this team or just pulling your hair. I like to take a minute, just sit right back and tell you how I became the #1 Bears fan. That boy is Benny Hunter. Keek on the mic, Keek on the mic, Keek on the mic, Keek on the mic. people, this the intro. Sacramento, California, born and raised. In Antelope is where I spend most of my days. Talk bad about my team, you must be a clown. This is Keek on the mic, so you know you better bear down.